At exactly 12:03 a.m., the door at the end of the corridor opened on its own. The apartment building was silent, but the sound of old hinges cutting through the darkness felt unnaturally loud. The hallway lights flickered once, then steadied, casting long shadows across the cracked floor tiles. Armand stood frozen near his bedroom entrance, his heartbeat loud enough to feel in his ears. That door had been locked for years. Everyone in the building knew it never opened. Yet tonight it had. The door stopped halfway, revealing nothing but darkness inside, a darkness that seemed thicker than the night itself. The air changed immediately. It smelled damp, like wet concrete mixed with something metallic. Armand felt an instinctive pull to step back, but his legs refused to move. Earlier that evening, Armand had convinced himself he was just tired. He had moved into the old apartment only 3 days ago, searching for something cheap and quiet after losing his job. The building was isolated, squeezed between a closed factory and a narrow, unused road. The caretaker, an elderly man who lived on the ground floor, had warned him about one thing only. The top-floor corridor had a door that should never be touched, especially after midnight. Armand had smiled politely then, dismissing it as a superstition meant to scare newcomers. But now, standing in front of the open doorway, the warning felt painfully real. Every clock in the apartment stopped ticking at the same time. His phone screen went black, even though it was fully charged. The silence pressed against his ears, broken only by a faint sound coming from inside the room beyond the door. It sounded like slow breathing, steady and patient, as if something had been waiting. Armand's mind replayed the moments that led him here. On his first night, he had noticed the door at the far end of the corridor. It was darker than the others, its surface scarred with deep scratches that looked like they were made from the inside. During the day, it remained firmly shut, no matter how much pressure he applied while cleaning the hallway. At night, though, things changed. He had begun waking up at exactly 12:01 a.m., every night without fail. Each time, the corridor light outside his room was on, even though he always switched it off. And each time, the smell of damper air seeped into his apartment. On the second night, he heard footsteps pacing slowly near the door, heavy, deliberate steps that never moved away. When he checked the peephole, the corridor appeared empty, but the footsteps continued, circling the same spot. Now, on the third night, the door had finally opened. Armand felt a strange pressure in his chest, not pain, but recognition, as if his body already knew what his mind was struggling to accept. He took a cautious step forward. The floor felt colder with every inch closer to the doorway. The darkness inside did not reflect light. It absorbed it. Just then, the caretaker emerged silently from the stairwell behind him. His face looked drained, his eyes fixed on the open door with an expression that mixed fear and regret. He did not rush or shout. He simply stood there, gripping the railing tightly, as if bracing himself for something inevitable. The caretaker had lived in the building for over 30 years. He had seen tenants come and go, but some never left. According to records that were never officially acknowledged, the room behind that door was sealed after a fire decades ago. The fire had claimed only one life. But strange incidents followed. People reported hearing movements at night, doors locking themselves, and eventually the midnight awakenings. The caretaker knew the pattern well. The door never opened randomly. It opened for those who were already marked. Inside the room, the breathing grew louder. The darkness shifted slightly, like a shape adjusting its position. Armand's vision blurred, and memories he did not recognize flashed through his mind. Long nights in the same corridor, the smell of smoke, the feeling of being trapped with no way out. His reflection appeared briefly on the surface of the door, but it did not move with him. It stood still, staring back with hollow eyes, as if waiting for Armand to return to it. The caretaker understood then that it was too late. The door did not take bodies. It took replacements. At 12:07 a.m., the corridor light flickered again. The door closed slowly without sound. The air returned to normal. The smell vanished. The silence lifted. The next morning, the caretaker cleaned the hallway as usual. There were no signs of disturbance, no open door, no darkness. When he knocked on Armand's apartment, there was no response. The room was empty, except for a thin layer of dust, as if no one had lived there for years. At the end of the corridor, the sealed door looked unchanged. That night at exactly 12:01 a.m., a new tenant woke up suddenly, confused by the corridor light shining through his door, and somewhere behind the sealed wall, slow breathing began again.